All right, how's everybody doing? Hotep, hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. It is Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. We know in Florida and Arizona, we know it's election day for the primaries there. All right, so I wanted to talk about this breaking news story coming out of Texas, okay, coming out of Texas. And this deals with the police killing of Jordan Edwards, okay? And this took place back in 2017. A lot of us remember this story. And everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also, okay? All right, so a jury has found former Balch Springs, Texas police officer Roy Oliver guilty of murder in the April 2017 killing of 15-year-old African-American teenager Jordan Edwards, okay? WashingtonPost.com has a breaking news story about this, also NBCnews.com. He was found guilty today, okay? Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. Now, Roy Oliver is white. He was a police officer at the time, but he has since left the force. He testified that he was defending his partner when he shot into a car leaving a house party in the Dallas suburb of Balch Springs. Now, it's spelled B-A-L-C-H, but when I was covering this story, because I covered this story like when it happened, okay, on my radio show, the African History Network show, and broadcast, things like this. So somebody from the area said it's pronounced Balch Springs, all right? So when you see the spelling of it, you'll know why it's pronounced the way it's pronounced, all right? Okay, and everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page also, all right? And let me pin it right here so it stops moving. Okay, let's continue here. All right, so, okay, let's continue. All right, so he said, Roy Oliver testified that he was defending his partner when he shot into a car leaving a house party in the Dallas suburb of Balch Springs. 15-year-old Jordan Edwards, who was a freshman at the time, freshman honor roll student, was sitting in the front passenger seat. He was killed instantly. So the incident became a flashpoint in North Texas and even nationally, reigniting concerns of racism and police brutality. Once again, keep in mind, it's incidences like this that Colin Kaepernick started the protests in the national, in the NFL, and other football players joined in as well. And it continues. It's continuing this season also. There's incidences like this, the killings. Now, in this case, Roy Oliver was found guilty. In most situations, police officers are not found guilty of unjust killings, all right? Especially when it comes to African Americans. Okay, so Roy Oliver is the second police officer in Dallas County to be found guilty in 2018, this year, 2018, to be found guilty of a civilian's death in 2018. So more than a dozen uniformed police officers lined the walls of the packed courtroom as the verdict was read. The jury, which deliberated for 13 hours, found Roy Oliver not guilty of 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon by a public servant. So he was found not guilty of 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon by a public servant, okay? Philip Stinson is an associate professor of criminal justice at Bowling Green State University. He said, quote, for an officer to be convicted of murder resulting from an on-duty shooting, the facts of the incident have to be so bizarre that there is no rational explanation for the officer's actions. He went on to say, I think that shooting into a car full of teenagers as they slowly drive down the street away from the officer fits that pattern. Okay. Now, Roy Oliver's wife sobbed she cried in a front row while embracing his mother. On the other side of the courtroom, friends and family of Jordan Edwards hugged each other as they also cried. Several women quietly said, "God is good." Now, the attorney handling a federal civil lawsuit against Roy Oliver, which was on hold while the criminal case was litigated, has said that the Edwards family wants him, quote, to be severely punished, Now, Roy Oliver and his partner, Tyler Gross, had been dispatched in response to neighbors' complaints about a party with drunken high school students. This is how all this started. I remember reporting on this. For those that don't know, I do radio here in Detroit, 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, WFDF. I'm the host of the African History Network show, Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And at this time, April, I was still doing the morning show, Wake Up with Steve Hood, also on Thursday, every Thursday morning. I was on the morning show. So I remember covering this case, this story, and I said, well, wait a second. He's dead because neighbors called because of a loud party, things like this, and it escalated from there, okay? So Roy Oliver and his partner, Tyler Gross, had been dispatched in response to neighbors' complaints about a party with drunken high school students. But there was no alcohol at the party. And the mood was cordial and even playful, with Roy Oliver and his partner, Tyler Gross, joking with the partygoers. So they get a call saying that they're high school students having a party, and, I guess they're loud, and they said drunken high school students, but there's no alcohol. So who made this call, and how did they determine that these were drunken high school students? And I will go a step further and ask the question, how did they determine that these were high school students also? But how did you determine that these were drunken high school students? So things changed quickly, however, when shots rang out from a nearby parking lot, which were later determined to have been fired into the air by gang members. Footage from the officer's body camera showed a chaotic scene with teenagers filling the residential streets. Police officer at the time, Roy Oliver, went to his patrol car and retrieved his service rifle, while his partner, Tyler Gross, stopped one car leaving the party and attempted to stop a second car, which was a Chevrolet Impala driven by Jordan Edwards' stepbrother, Vidal Allen. As the Chevrolet Impala slowly backed away from Tyler Gross, the police officer Tyler Gross, his partner, Roy Oliver, said he heard his partner reading the car's license plate into the radio, into the dispatch, the CB radio, okay, running the plates. So Roy Oliver said he took that as an indication that his partner had, quote unquote, keyed in on something, K-E-Y-E-D, keyed in on something. So Officer Tyler Gross walked to the passenger side door of the vehicle and broke the back window as he yelled, "Stop the effing car," quote unquote, "Stop the effing car." Officer Roy Oliver then fired 5 rounds into the car in less than 1 second. One of the shots hit Jordan Edwards, who warned the others in the car, quote, "Duck, get down," end quote. Jordan Edwards was shot in the head. He was killed instantly. So dressed in a dark suit with a lapel pin for autism to honor his 3-year-old son, whose name is Tab, former officer Roy Oliver testified that he had, quote, had no other option than to use lethal force, end quote, and considered Jordan Edwards a threat after seeing his silhouette moving in the car. When asked if he would have made the same decision today, Roy Oliver said, quote, if I had all of the information, no. He asked the question, if I had had all of the information, no, he would not have made the same decision. Now, in a tweet linking to an NBC News report about the verdict, Governor Greg Abbott wrote, quote, white Texas police officer found guilty of murder for fatally shooting black teen in car. This life should never have been lost, end quote. And that is the story from NBCnews.com. We'll go to that in just a second. White Texas police officer found guilty of murder for fatally shooting black teen in car. A former police officer was found guilty of murder on Tuesday for shooting into a car carrying black teenagers, killing one 15-year-old boy. So that's the reporting from NBCnews.com. That's an article on their website. So when I was covering this story back in 2017, based upon the information that, based upon the reporting on this case, I felt that the officer, Roy Oliver, would be found guilty. I felt that he would be found guilty. You never know in cases like this. This is why it's important for, number one, this is why it's important to vote for prosecutors. 95% of your prosecutors are white, majority white males. I'm not saying just because a prosecutor is a white male does not mean that they can't do their job or won't do their job, but many of them are not properly doing their job, okay? So this is why it's important to vote for prosecutors. This is why it's important to register to vote. Why? Because when we talk about jury pools, oftentimes when we say, well, the jury did not have proper representation of African Americans. Well, if you're not registered to vote, you can't sit on a jury, because the jury duty notification card that they send you in the mail, and I've gotten them before, I wouldn't showed up, I wasn't selected, but 90% of the people who showed up for jury duty were African Americans, because this was in Detroit. Okay, they get the names and addresses to call for jury duty. They get from the voter rolls. So if you're not registered to vote, you can't sit on the jury. If you pay attention to this. Oftentimes we complain about the verdict, and we complain about there were not enough African Americans on the jury, things like this. If you're not registered to vote, you cannot sit on a jury, because the names and addresses that they get to send the jury duty notification card out to people, they get the names and addresses from the voter rolls. So there are a number of things that we have to do to stay engaged, okay? Luckily, in this case, I don't know the racial makeup of the jury, but luckily in this case, they looked at the evidence and they got this correct, okay? How's everybody doing? We'll come to some of your comments here in just a minute. Hey, share this broadcast on your Facebook page. We're talking about this breaking news story out of Texas. It was a Dallas, Texas jury. Ex-police officer Roy Oliver of the Balch Springs Police Department found guilty of murder for the killing of unarmed African-American teen Jordan Edwards. We know Roy Oliver is white. This was a big news story last year. Police shooting took place April of 2017, okay? Hey, if you like this type of information also, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. And that helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep doing the broadcasting, etc. paypal.me/the AHN show. And also you can advertise with the African History Network. You can advertise on the podcast of our radio show, the African History Network show. We're on 6 different podcast platforms. We reach thousands of people on a weekly basis. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com for more information. And we have a special promotion right now: buy 1 month, get 1 month free, okay? And post the name of your African-American-owned business here on the thread of the broadcast, all right? Okay, so back to the story here. So the two sides, in a tweet linking to an NBC report about the verdict, Governor Greg Abbott wrote, quote, white Texas police officer, Governor Greg Abbott, governor of Texas. White Texas police officer found guilty of murder for fatally shooting black teen in car. This life should never have been lost. Okay, so the two sides experts, the experts on both sides, on use of force saw Roy Oliver's case, his case and his use of force very differently. Now, Philip Hayden, who was a Vietnam veteran and retired FBI agent, testified for the state of Texas that Roy Oliver had no time to properly assess the risk that Tyler Gross faced, his partner, and that shooting into a moving vehicle violated their department policy. Jay Coons, on the other hand, a captain with the Harris County Sheriff's Office and a witness for the defense, testified that Roy Oliver's decision to shoot, quote, at the time was reasonable, end quote. I wonder how many cars full of white teenagers do they shoot into? I'm just curious. Now, although Tyler Gross testified he, quote, didn't feel like the driver was trying to hit me, end quote, Roy Oliver's attorneys maintained that he fired to defend Gross. Okay, what was the threat? What was the deadly threat that you felt the need to fire 5 shots into this car? So Jim Lane is an attorney for the Combined Law Enforcement Association of Texas, or CLEAT, C-L-E-A-T. Jim Lane, a lawyer for the Combined Law Enforcement Association of Texas. All right. So during the defense's 45-minute closing argument on Monday, August 27th, he asked the question, who is Roy Oliver? Who is Roy Oliver? He said he wanted to be a protector. Now, the 38-year-old who was raised by a single mother, worked through high school and dropped out during his senior year. He wanted to be a firefighter, but a low test score drove him to seek bonus points given to veterans, he said. He enlisted in the Army, which led to 2 combat tours in Iraq. Within days of the shooting, April 2017 is when the shooting took place. Within days of the shooting, then police officer Roy Oliver was fired from the Balch Springs, Texas Police Department, ending his 7-year tenure as a licensed peace officer. He had been disciplined once before for losing his temper with an assistant district attorney during a trial, an incident that was detailed by jurors. Now, during the trial, the defense called only 2 witnesses and presented about 30 pieces of evidence, while the state called 26 witnesses and presented about 300 pieces of evidence. So let's look at this quickly here. The prosecution, the state of Texas, presented 26 witnesses. They called 26 witnesses to testify and presented about 300 pieces of evidence. The defense for Roy Oliver called only 2 witnesses and presented about 30 pieces of evidence. Now, as he had throughout the trial, Roy Oliver sat stoically for 4 hours on the stand. Prosecutors characterized him as an angry, out of control walking bomb. An angry, out of control walking bomb. Even before closing arguments had begun, a group called Mothers Against Police Brutality announced its plans to hold a rally if Roy Oliver gets off, okay, should he not be convicted. All right. Now, the teens' friends and relatives filled the courtroom every day, as did Roy Oliver's parents and wife. Absent from the pews, though, was an outpouring of law enforcement support, despite social media posts by Roy Oliver's union that, quote, all interested officers are encouraged to attend and show support, end quote. Okay. So I don't know what to glean from that, what to gather from that. Maybe saw the evidence was really against Roy Oliver, and they didn't show out in large support throughout the trial. So that's the reporting from the Washington Post by Eva Ruth Moravec, okay? Former police officer convicted of murder for shooting unarmed black teen. We see also that the Griot.com has an article about this as well, because this story just broke within about the last hour, okay? So I saw Dallas Morning News just had an article within about the last 30 minutes or so. DallasNews.com, the Dallas Morning News, jurors find cop who killed 15-year-old Jordan Edwards guilty of murder. That was last updated at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it was a couple hours ago. I guess it came out or so. Okay. But the Griot.com, which is an African-American news source, they had an article that I saw before I started broadcasting. Dallas jury finds police officer who fatally shot 15-year-old Jordan Edwards guilty of murder. Okay. And who wrote this article? Did they write it or was it Associated Press? And so what's interesting here is that the Griot has launched a special series called #BlackOnBlue to examine the relationship between law enforcement and African Americans. Our reporters and videographers will investigate police brutality and corruption while also exploring local and national efforts to improve policing in our communities, okay? And they ask people to join the conversation or share your own story using the hashtag #BlackOnBlue, okay? So they talk about this, verdict also, okay? They talk about this verdict as well. Let me look at something here. Okay, so Rebecca Lopez is a WFAA reporter. She reported that the Edwards family reaction was also shared online. She reported that Jordan Edwards' family was very emotional in the courtroom, saying "Thank you, Jesus," when the verdict was read. Lopez reports that Roy Oliver was found not guilty of the aggravated assault charges, but found guilty of murdering Jordan Edwards. Jordan Edwards' father, Odell Edwards, said afterwards that he wanted to jump up and down when he heard the verdict and was quote unquote thankful. He said, "I'm happy, very happy. It's been a long time, a hard year." All right. Okay, and there's a tweet from Robbie Owens, who's a reporter for CBS Channel 11. I guess they're in the Texas area. She said that Jordan Edwards' father reacts to guilty verdict in police officer trial. Okay, and they have the quote from Jordan Edwards. He was happy, wanted to jump up and down. So the article from the Griot.com, African American news source, it has, actual quotes from family members of Jordan Edwards, things like this. So it personalizes it much more. All right. So check it. We'll post a link to this article here on the thread of the broadcast. You can check this out because I always want to look at African American news sources also on stories like this. All right. So it's going to be interesting to see if Attorney General Jeff Sessions says anything about this, because we know that Jeff Sessions, when he became Attorney General, backed off of the investigations into the patterns and practices of police departments. Okay. And Jeff Sessions has not advocated at all holding police officers accountable. So it's going to be interesting to see if he comments on this also. And then you have the reporting from NBCnews.com as well. White Texas police officer found guilty of murder for fatally shooting black teen in car. All right. So hopefully there will be, and hopefully we're seeing more trials of police officers for shooting people, unarmed people, things like this, especially African Americans. We're seeing more trials. This is one of the few instances where they are found guilty. We have seen, however, more over the last maybe 3 years of police officers being found guilty, more than normal, but overall, most of them are not found guilty. Okay, and there are a number of reasons. So what is interesting is that at the same time this story is taking place, right, you have reporting coming out of, what state was that? I think Wisconsin. I saw a couple of articles about this. AtlantaBlackStar.com has one. African American owned and operated, AtlantaBlackStar.com. And this deals with Officer Betty Shelby, also on the homepage of Washington Post. I just saw that story before we broadcasted as well. Officer Betty Shelby shot. Let me pull this up here. Hold on. Trying to get the article from AtlantaBlackStar.com. We'll pull that up here, and okay, I think that was under WordPress. Okay, but Officer Betty Shelby was found not guilty of killing a African American man. This was this 2017 or so. Okay, and it was recorded. It was on video. Okay, the killing. It was on video. She was there with 3 or 4 other police officers. She was the only one who fired a shot. All right. So very, very interesting. But she is now teaching classes on to teach police officers surviving the aftermath of a police shooting. Very interesting. So this story is in the news cycle at the same time as we have the verdict in the killing of Jordan Edwards. All right, and let me pull this up here. It's the story from Washington Post is a video. I want to pull up an article here. Let's see here. Okay, so they have an article also. She fatally shot an unarmed black man. Now she's teaching other police officers how to, quote unquote, survive such incidents. Okay, this is from August 28th, 2018, Washington Post. All right. And it was in Oklahoma. Yeah. Okay, 2 years ago. So it had been 2016 in Oklahoma. It was Terrence Crutcher. She shot and killed Terrence Crutcher. She was acquitted of first-degree manslaughter in the shooting death of Terrence Crutcher. We saw the video of her. Her husband was in a helicopter, said that it looks like a bad dude and things like this, right? She was found not guilty. All right, so now she teaches a class. She's teaching police officers how to survive such events. 2 years after she fatally shot an unarmed African-American man in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Betty Jo Shelby, now a police officer in an adjacent county, because she left the police department that she was part of when she shot and killed Terrence Crutcher. Now she is teaching a course on how to survive such events, legally, emotionally, and physically. The course, as she explained it to a local ABC affiliate, equips officers to withstand the effect, named for the Missouri city convulsed by the 2014 shooting of a black teenager, the Ferguson effect, okay? Quote, when a police officer is victimized by anti-police groups and tried in the court of public opinion, end quote, okay? What anti-police groups are you talking about? Because most of these groups are against police brutality. They're not anti-police, they're anti-police brutality. They're anti-police shooting and killing unarmed African Americans and getting away with it. So what anti-police groups are you talking about? So Betty Shelby, who was white, was tried last year in the criminal court in Tulsa County. She was acquitted of first-degree manslaughter in the shooting death of Terrence Crutcher, but the jury questioned her, quote, judgment as a law enforcement officer, end quote. So you can check out the rest of this. But when you research the case and watch the video, she was there with 3 or 4 other male police officers. She was the only one who fired a shot. The other officers did not fire a shot. She was the only one. And she said, and her attorney said she had never been so afraid in her life. This is what her attorney said. Her attorney said she had never been so afraid in her life. Okay, so if you had never been so afraid in your life, why'd you only fire 1 shot? If you were that scared, a reasonable person would have fired more than 1 shot. So and why is it that you had never been that scared in your life and you're there with other police officers? You weren't there by yourself. This wasn't in a dark alley at night. This was broad daylight. You're there with other officers. You're so scared. This is the scaredest you've ever been in your life. You're so scared you only fired 1 shot. Luckily, in the case of Roy Oliver, he didn't get away with that. All right. Luckily, in the case of Roy Oliver, he did not get away with that. How's everybody doing? Let's go to some of your comments here. Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. And you can also want to let you know to our African American business owners that are watching, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. And you can advertise with the African History Network also. We'll put your 30-second to 60-second commercial into the audio podcast of our radio show, the African History Network show. And we can, if you don't have a commercial, we can record one for you. We reach thousands of people on a weekly basis. We're on 6 different podcast platforms. We'll put this broadcast here on our podcast platform also. We're on iTunes. We're on Blog Talk Radio, FM Player, Castbox, and some other ones as well. Okay, so email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, and we have a special promotion: buy 1 month, get 1 month free. All right, so who we have here? We got Greg Osborne. How you doing, Greg? Mimi, she just reinforcing people how to lie and deal with mental consequences and Black people not liking her. Okay, talking about Betty Shelby. When I saw that story today, man, I was like, dude, this is ridiculous. But this is one of the reasons why we have to register to vote, show up for jury duty, vote for prosecutors, run better candidates for prosecutors. This is what they did in Ferguson, Missouri. Wesley Bell, African-American judge, just defeated Bob McCullough, who was the St. Louis County prosecutor. He refused to indict the officer who killed Mike Brown. I think his name was Mike Brown. I think his name was Darren Matthews. He was the St. Louis County prosecutor for more than 25 years. Wesley Bell just defeated Bob McCullough, because African Americans organized. They said, we're going to support this brother. They went out and voted for him. And the polls, the poll surveys right before the election showed that Wesley Bell was not supposed to win. They showed that Bob McCullough was supposed to win. But Black people said, no, we're going to vote. They said, to hell with the polls. They said, we're going to vote. And Wesley Bell got 57% of the vote. And he wanted to be the St. Louis County prosecutor. Okay. So we have to understand, prosecutor, that is an elected position. All right, so a lot of people are starting to wake up and realize, wait a second, a lot of this stuff, we can change ourselves. We can take control of this. All right, so Robert said she wasn't scared. She and her attorney knew that if she said she was scared and shed some tears, white woman's kryptonite, she would be home free. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah, because there were other officers there. She was the only one who fired a shot. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is voting. Okay. Okay, Pittsburgh. Are you saying they're voting today or they're voting period? Bruce. We know we know elections are taking place today in Florida and Arizona. Andrew Gilliam, the mayor of Tallahassee, Florida, is running for to be governor of Florida. Okay, Wrexham is in Omaha, Nebraska. Georgia, Houston, Texas. Okay. Okay. Lois said, wow, I'm shocked because that never happens. Thank you. Prayers going out to the family. Alicia says she got away with murder, talking about Officer Betty Shelby. Okay. Ariel Johnson said headline should read unarmed black 14-year-old honor roll student shot dead by white police officer. All right. Okay. Okay, Deb, Essence, Sonia, some of the people watching. Did they ever get to see the body cam? Jomaine, I'm not sure if there's body cam footage. I'm not sure if there was body cam footage in this case here. Okay. All right. So everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Hey, listen to the African History Network show Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. Superstation. In Detroit, WFDF. We broadcast on Facebook Live. You visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Has information how to listen around the world. And then also we have the audio podcast of our radio shows at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And search for the African History Network on different platforms where you get your podcasts also, because we're on a lot of those platforms. If you like this type of information, register for the online courses that I teach. We have them all on demand. Watch at your own pace. Dealing with African history, African American history, economic empowerment. We have a 10-course online bundle pack, regularly $130, on sale $60. It includes ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach in the school. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach in the school. That's a 14-hour 7-session online course that I teach. We deal with thousands of years of history. Also included in that bundle pack is Great African Women in History, the Mothers of Civilization, African American Resistance in the Era of Donald Trump, Voter Suppression, Reparations, and How Elections Have Consequences. And there are a lot of other ones also, okay? So you can watch from around the world on your smartphone, tablet, computer. It's also available at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, right on the homepage of the broadcast also, okay? Let's go to some more of your comments. Balch Springs outside. Yeah, Balch Springs is a suburb of Texas. We got, that was Charles. Okay, we have Angie. How are you doing? Zaida, which city? Oh, well, yeah, Balch Springs. Balch Springs is the city, okay? Those in Philadelphia, I will be in Philadelphia September 27th through September 30th, 2018. That was Thursday through Sunday for the All Black National Convention. The All Black National Convention that Dr. Boyce Watkins organizes. So come on out, visit allblacknationalconvention.com, allblacknationalconvention.com. I'll be on one of the panel discussions on Saturday dealing with why we must buy black. I'll be a vendor there as well. So I was there last year. It's fantastic. I was on the panel discussion last year also, and the vendor. So come on out. Visit allblacknationalconvention.com for more information, okay? All right, look, we have to get out of here. Hey, remember at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Remember, right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.